Hello everybody. I'm out here getting ready to change out a outdoor air conditioner, the outdoor part of a central unit. And here it is. And the compressor went out of this, and when it did, we lost all the freon, so that makes it a little easier on me today. I was a heat and air guy for 25 years, retired about 10 years ago. And what we have to do, you see these two boxes here. This house has 3 units plus another one around the corner over there. That one's for the 3rd floor. This is a Victorian. We're on the side of it over here. I can't show a whole lot of it to you from over here, but it has 4 units in it. And the center one, these 2 green ones are original, and the center one went out. And these are refrigerant 22 units, which you can't get anymore. And so what do I do to save money? Well, I'll show you here in a minute. I bought a used one. And so if I can get 2 or 3 years out of the used one, I'm doing pretty good. Just like that one over there on the end. I bought it used, and it's been running for 5 years now. Since you can't get the R22 units anymore, that's pretty much what you have to do until you change everything out, which I'm not in the mood to do that at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip in another R22 unit, 3 ton, and we're going to go through the steps. So here we go. All right, so what you want to do first, by all means, is make sure the power's off. Now this is called an electrical disconnect here on the wall. The bottom one down here is the disconnect for 1 unit. This is the disconnect for the unit we're changing, and then there's another disconnect over there on the side of the wall over there, a little ways over there. So behind this, if you pull this out, this is your fuse disconnect. Behind this panel are 2 fuses. Now your fuses may be smaller or about this size. Now if you look at this, this is just a standard voltmeter. Put it on alternating volts, and if I've got this thing set right, we go on the other side of the fuses, the supply side, and there you go, 245 volts on that side. So don't stick your fingers in there. And by all means, I'm not saying that if you've never done this, don't risk it. This is a lot of work, and a lot of dangerous work, and if you don't know what you're doing, you do not want to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ohm out these fuses. Now, you see this? If you touch those 2 together, it's going to beep. And I've got it on ohms right here. So if I go on both sides of the fuse, nothing. Other sides of the fuse. Now, keep in mind, I've got the power off to the fuses. Nothing. Both of those fuses are bad. Both of them. So when that compressor grounded out or shorted out, it blew both fuses. So now I've got to find 2 more of those fuses, and man, I sure hope I have those. So anyway, we know that we don't have power to the unit. The power's been shut off. We have the blade out, because you definitely do not want to get shocked by 240 volts. Everybody say amen. So we got the power off. The refrigerant is already out of the unit, so we don't have to go through a pump down cycle or anything like that. So we're just going to cut the unit loose and put a new one in. And it looks like it's going to rain on me. I hope not, because that's like the worst weather to do this. So we're going to get going. Here we go. Okay, we know that our power's off. You don't want to mess with anything that you know the power's on. This does still have 24 volts going to it from the indoor unit, so I'll have to shut the indoor unit off here pretty quick. But we know that the power's off. We know that the refrigerant is out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this thing loose, and then we'll disconnect the power to it also. And then we'll drag this thing out of here and set the other one. All right, as you can see, I've got the unit out of there. Boy, it's got a mess underneath it. So I'm going to have to clean that out real quick before I set the other one. So I'm going to go find me a shovel and move all this stuff. When I bought this unit used, they also gave me the electric furnace. It's a small electric furnace with a 3-ton evaporator in it. I'm going to put this in my shop because I am total electric out here. That is until we put the propane tank in about 6 months ago. And we're switching over to propane furnaces in the big house. So I'm going to put this in my shop to where I can use this on the cold days so my pipes won't freeze. So I got this unit set over here. Looks pretty dang good, doesn't it? These are actually the units that I used to put in when I was still in business. They're Carrier. It's a Carrier. This is one of the most, this model is probably one of the most reliable units that Carrier ever made. I don't know about now because I don't put them in anymore. But this, I have put so many of these in and never had a problem with them, is why I actually bought it. It's nice and clean. The people have kept it up well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook the power up to it. And we're going to try it before I hook everything else up. Now, what do you see here? Look at all my electrical on my tubing. Where is it coming out over here? On the opposite freaking side. So what am I going to have to do? Well, I know a few tricks. Instead of having to redo all the electrical to come over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bore a hole right in the unit right here, a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch, and all my electrical will go in over here. Now some of you are saying, oh, look out. Yeah, you're right, because there's copper tubing in here, and if I'm going to bore a hole, I'm going to have to be very careful. And I would like to tell you that I've never hit that copper tubing, but I would be lying. So I'm going to get me some a boring hole kit. I don't know what you call it now. I'm going to get you a couple of bits and I'm going to bore 2 1/2 inch holes in that, and then we're going to keep on going. Okay, let's keep on rocking. Hole saw. Okay, I'm gonna have to splice in some wire because the wire's not long enough, but this is a low amp circuit. This unit probably doesn't pull but about 15 amps at the most. It'll be on like a 35 amp circuit. The fuses will be 35 amp. I'm gonna go find me some fuses and we'll go find me some wire. So I got a big storage box back here. I'm going to go take a look. I'll be right back. Okay, got all the wires wired back together. I just so happen to have some 8 gauge stranded, which worked out pretty good. It's a little bigger than what's needed, but you know, it's okay to go a little bit bigger if you've got room for it, but never go any smaller than what you've got coming in. So what I've done is I've wired none of these together and then taped them with electrical tape. Now, big question right here, why is this white? Well, because I only had white tape. This is the ground wire. Usually the ground wire will be green, but as long as we have it marked and we know what it is, the ground wire goes to the casing of the air conditioner. Let me see if I can adjust the camera. Goes to the casing up in the air conditioner. The other two go to the contactor. This is a single pole contactor. It's got one contact in it. So what we're going to do, I found some fuses, and what we're going to do is we're going to try this unit out before I go any farther and make sure that everything works on it, because I bought it sight unseen. You can't really hook these up when you buy them out of the back of somebody's truck. So I'm going to put the fuses in and we'll push the contactor in and make sure everything works on it. Okay, as you can see, I'm using these electrician's needle nose. You don't want to stick your finger in here. You got 230 volts to this now. The compressor's down here, the fan motor's up here. Let's see if everything works. Sure enough, it works. Pretty amazing, huh? Okay, let's shut the power back off. Pull the blade. Leave the fuses in. Let's see if we can get this thing on here. All right, we'll go ahead and leave that just the way it is. Leave the blade out. So the power's off to the unit. We got 2 new fuses in. That means the power stops right here until we put the blade back in. Okay, we know the unit works. We got the power shut back off. Let's go ahead and just dress these up a little bit with some zip ties. Still got the thermostat wiring to go, but that won't be as big of a deal. All right, let's cut these off. Bend those around a little bit. We'll shape those up a little bit once we get the thermostat wires on. Okay, let's go to the tube. Okay, so I've got that tubing dug up. It was 4 or 5 inches in the ground, and I brought it around here and was able to bend it around here to where I won't have to put any elbows in it until I get to this point. And this is not going to be very fun because somebody stuck that full tape on that tubing. Whoever did that hurts my feelings, because now that full tape is really tough stuff, and I'm going to have to get all that off there. So I'm going to have to work on that just a little bit. Okay, I worked on that tubing and they had put that full tape on there, and that you know, I've seen some pretty dumb things, but that ranks right up there, because I had to file that, sand it, use a wire brush on it, and then I cut it off and rounded it off, and I got an elbow on it. I'll show you here in a minute. Let's talk about filter dryers. Now, dryers are going to have to go in this because the compressor burned up. A lot of times when compressors burn up, they leave a residue in the system, and you got to clean that up. It's burnt oil, burnt refrigerant, whatever, and it's got to be cleaned up. This is a suction line filter. As you can see, it's got 2 ports. It's got one on both sides. And you put valves in here where you can put your gauges on here. Now, why would there be 2 ports on each side of this? Right. You can tell if this is stopped up or not by putting your gauges one here or one over here and see if the pressure is different from one side to the other. And that tells you if this is stopped up. Now, a lot of times on some of these real bad burnouts, with this, which this is not one of them, the oil doesn't smell bad in this one, but if it's a real bad burnout, these can get plugged up and you'll have to change it out, which is a real pain in the rear end if you have to do it, but sometimes you do. And they make some of these that are bolt-on the bigger air conditioning units that hold a lot of refrigerant. They're bolt-on, and you can actually pump the system down, not lose any refrigerant, take the bolts out, and there's a core on the inside of it that comes out. This is not like that. This is a small one because this is a small air conditioner, small system. So we're going to braze this in here to help keep the compressor safe from any burnout oil or anything that's in the system. Now this is on the low side. Let me show you what I'm going to put on the other side. This is also a filter. If I can get it out of the box. This is also a filter which goes on the, wow, they really got this in the box, man. I bet you can't guess where these are made from, I'm not even going to tell you. This is a liquid line filter dryer. This is the high side filter dryer, and these are just little bitty, and they will also catch particles and anything else that's in the system. These are mainly made to catch particles of anything that's going through the unit that could plug up the, these don't generally have capillary tubes anymore. They have an orifice in them. You don't want to get anything in the orifice. A lot of times the orifice will get plugged up and you'll know it really quick. I hated running into those, but a lot of times you do if stuff's in the system or left in the system. So let's keep this system clean and put these in, because you know, these aren't very expensive compared to the expense of a new compressor. I mean, nowhere near, folks. So if you've got an air conditioning guy working for you and you're kind of watching me do this to see what he's getting ready to do, ask him about a liquid line dryer and a suction side dryer. Okay? All right, let's move on. All right, this is the brazing rod. This is a 6%. I believe you can get 0% steel. And you can get the higher percentage of silver in it. And the more silver, the better the brazing rod. I'm sorry. Let me bend down here a little bit. In the heating and air conditioning field, 6% is pretty good. When you get into the refrigeration side, they'll use a better brazing rod if they're brazing. So I'm using 6%, and you'll see here in just a minute how this works. All right, I'm one of those old style oxygen and acetylene guys. With this torch, and I've had it a long time, it's a torch I used to carry in my van. This is oxygen and acetylene. It has an acetylene tank and an oxygen tank. Just a little bitty one. Carry it around. When you mix these two together, it gives you this kind of flame. This is a blue flame. This is extremely hot. This torch gets about 2,000 degrees. And here in a minute, you'll see what it does to copper. It can burn through copper if you're not careful. It'll burn through your phone too. But if you adjust this right, just the way it is right here, see the little blue tip, you're going to have a real easy time brazing up that copper. A lot of guys will use a different kind of torch. You cannot solder this like you can water lines because of the pressure and the residue that solder leaves on the inside of the lines. This will leave a bit of a carbon buildup inside, but you can flush it out pretty easy, and plus with filter dryers in it, it'll also take those particles out. But that's what this is an oxygen and an acetylene torch. Pretty awesome, huh? All right, this is your vacuum pump, or my vacuum pump. As you can see, it's so dirty, it's been sitting in storage for a while since I don't do much of this anymore. You hook this vacuum pump up to both sides. You turn both sides on. And since the unit is still sealed, we're only evacuating the lines and the evaporator coil, and which is good. It won't take as long, but it still needs to be done. So we're going to turn this on, and it's going to evacuate the system. They do the same thing to your car when they do anything to your air conditioner. It's got to remove all the moisture and of course the air, which is moisture. So it's going to evacuate the whole system, and I'll probably leave that on there for a couple hours, maybe longer than that. So we'll get back to this a little bit later. Well, would you look at that? Running good. All charged up. That unit cost me $200, and I got the heater with it too for $200. So let's go inside and look at the thermostat. So when you go from heat pump to just straight propane furnace and electric air conditioner, I had to rewire quite a bit. It took me about an hour to rewire it, and I didn't think y'all would be too interested in that. I was up in the attic. So got that done, and I'll have to come over here on a warm day. It's not very warm today, and recharge that unit. And then I'll be completely done with it. Okay, I'm done. I'm tired. I need to eat dinner. I'm gone.